It's just in. Qatar Airways is among the first to officially put the new U.S. immigration and travel rules into effect. An advisory put up on the airline's website just a short while back talks about the ban with regards to Muslim countries, including Sudan, Syria, Libya, Iraq, Iran, and Yemen. 7 countries, a temporary ban, a change of entry requirements for those passengers headed to the United States. Those travelers can only head there if they have a green card. The travel ban also excludes professionals, students, and tourists from outbound travel from these 7 countries. Now, Qatar Airways might be the first to put out the details of what the new U.S. travels are, but its implications are just slowly becoming clear. 5 passengers from Iraq and 1 more from Yemen were stopped on Saturday from boarding an Egypt Air flight from Cairo to New York. This after President Trump stopped the entry from these 7 Muslim-majority countries. Again, Sudan, Syria, Libya, Somalia, Iran, Iraq, and Yemen. The ban, again, temporary for the next 90 days. Trump says this would give enough time for his administration to develop stricter screening procedures for refugees, immigrants, and visitors. Airport sources say passengers arriving in transit to Cairo were also stopped, and if they met those criteria, they then were redirected to flights headed for their home countries despite holding valid visas. The bans, though temporary, have started immediately. Trump put a 4-month hold on Friday on allowing refugees into the U.S. as well. Trump says the move would help to protect Americans from terror attacks. Now, besides Cairo, it's not clear which other airports have implemented the ban and what impacts this ban could have on students and those who are on work or tourist visas, again, from these 7 Muslim-majority countries. Let's now go straight to our correspondent, Anshul Vora, who's standing by, as well as Glenn Carl, who is in Boston, with regards to this developing story coming in to the newsroom. We'll start with Glenn, who is standing by in Boston. Glenn, certainly big news impacting millions of travelers coming in and going out of the United States. What's the latest that we know in this hour and the implications to come?
Well, we actually don't know a lot of the details because I think they don't exist. There's already disharmony between the implementation by officials and what the stated official policy is supposed to be, meaning that there appear to be rather gross and crude blockings of people who meet the criteria that should allow them to continue to come in normally. Beyond that, we don't really know. I have commented earlier on your programs that a 90-day, quote, temporary, unquote, order makes me very wary because although, yes, that allows them to elaborate, the government to elaborate more formal rules, I think we should not be led astray by the moderate-sounding term temporary and focus instead on the historically changed nature of what it is to define who can come to the country, frankly, what an American is.
All right, let's now go to Anshul Vora, our West Asia Bureau Chief. Anshul, certainly a huge news that's coming in, and certainly the effects are already being felt. At this point, this sort of shatters the American dream that many people, not just from these 7 Muslim-majority countries have, but also from around the world, even here in South Asia. We see many of those folks who have the American dream to get out there, but this certainly putting a damper this hour.
Absolutely. I mean, I think the American dream's dead, and this is something Donald Trump said in his campaign, but he's the one really to kill it, not just for the Americans, but for a lot of other people who looked up to America as a country they could go and have a good life in, where they could enjoy freedom of expression and freedom of religion. And that is the reason that a lot of people from these countries are going there and have been going there, not just from West Asia, but from across the world. But having said that, I think Glenn has already focused on the xenophobia that Trump is propagating. But another very, very crucial point here continues to be the explanation that Donald Trump is giving. He's essentially trying to say that people who come from these countries are terrorists. But if you look at the terror attacks that have taken place in America and in Europe, then most of these terrorists were Europeans. They've been living there for a long time. And the fact of the matter continues to be that Saudi Arabia has not been banned. And if you look at 9/11, the terror attack on American soil, then a lot of these terrorists were Saudi Arabians. So there are these fault lines there. There are these issues that Donald Trump has been quite sort of cleverly worded and avoided many of the issues. The fact that they're allies with Saudi Arabia and allies with Egypt, hence these countries have not been banned, but others have. So there is really no explanation. It's really being looked in West Asia as a religious war, when Trump says that Syrian Christian refugees would be given priority when America accepts refugees from war-torn Syria. So it's being looked at a religious war from the West Asian perspective, and they think that Trump is going to unleash chaos in the region.
Let's now go to our correspondent, Jessica Taneja, who's standing by in the WION newsroom to get perspective on what the chatter is on social media. Jessica, just a short while ago, we also saw many folks reacting, certainly talking about protests with regards to this travel ban. A 70-year-old Muslim man who was trying to make his way to LAX, even being sent back to Iraq. So quite a bit of commotion happening at this hour. What are you seeing right now?
Well, certainly quite a lot of commotion, and evoking that xenophobic sentiment among people is not really, settling well with at least people, as a matter of fact. And earlier I did, tell you about how Qatar Airways actually has been the first airline coming out with travel alerts, specifically mentioning this in their first section while they move down to others, which also talks about the Zika virus restrictions. But at the moment, specifically mentioning the nationals who don't have green card, and then categorizing the visas, then actually impossible to get in other people to go to America. And apart from that, some interesting Twitter reactions are also coming in from people saying that, to the pro-life people, where is your activism regarding the ban on Muslims? And so the fetus life is precious, but not a Muslim's is. Apart from that, also, looking at other issues, it's that, just to be clear, if you're going to use 9/11 as a justification, none of the 19 hijackers were from these 6 or 7 countries that you've actually managed to ban from the United States. So these are interesting developments. And also, people saying that in anticipation of the Muslim travel ban, the civil rights groups are organizing an emergency rally in New York's, Washington Square Park, demanding a complete revocation of what Trump has displayed here. And remember, he signed an executive order to ban migrants and Muslims from the US soil. So this is not settling well among people and among a lot of others who are expecting to travel to the US very soon.
All right, Jessica Taneja bringing us the update from social media. Thank you, Jessica, so much for that perspective, as well as Anshul Vora joining us from our West Asia Bureau, and Glenn Carl from Boston. We appreciate your input. Certainly a huge development happening right now. Millions of Muslims impacted with regards to this, with the travel ban temporarily for 90 days in those 7 countries.